Jack and Pat Gallagher expected to be here to represent the Pollock's new Florida neighbors, but a family emergency kept them in their Michigan summer home. Jack emailed some comments, which I will be happy to read. Shortly after Pat and I had purchased our Florida condo in Bird Bay, we met Art and Joan. Almost immediately, we all became the best of friends year-round. Early on, the four of us had been out to a restaurant for dinner, and a few days later, Pat and I had the Pollocks over to our place. Being a good host and remembering what he had ordered previously, I said to Art, "That was a martini on the rocks with no fruit, right?" He said it was. But as the evening progressed, I noticed that Art was really nursing his drink. I paused for us to say, "What?" And wasn't even ready for another. At the end of the evening, after they'd gone, Pat noticed that there was a bottle of gin on the counter. She said, "You didn't give Art gin, did you?" I said, "Of course I did. He drinks martinis." She said, "I think he drinks vodka martinis." So from then on, at our place, Art always made his own drinks. There was a special bond between Art and me that's hard to describe. Art and I enjoyed taking gentle jabs at each other that only the other person could appreciate. I'm not sure Jack is quite right about that. All sorts of us enjoyed taking jabs at Art, and he back. But Jack did appreciate that. Like the rest of us, Art and Joan looked forward to a retirement of relaxation and enjoyment. But when Art saw a need, I'm sure here in Akron as well as in Venice, he stepped up to the plate and volunteered his services, serving on various boards, making those communities a better place because of his contributions. And he never stopped giving his best. If the size of a person is measured by the contributions he's made while on this earth, then Art is truly a giant among men. It's been over 2 months since Art left us, and I still miss my best friend. But I'm sure Art would say, "For God's sake, Jack, get over it." And so we shall. We all know that each evening Art really enjoyed his special water, as I enjoyed my scotch. So at cocktail time each evening, Art will always be with me in spirit. When I raise my glass of scotch on the rocks, I know that Art will be right alongside with his special water. Here's to you, Art. God bless you. I'm next. In the old days at the U, we're talking 60s, full-time profs taught night classes as a matter of course. Later, part-time faculty took over most of those classes. But in the 60s, Art and Tom Herbert regularly stopped for a beer or two, or three, after their last class, which probably ended around 10 o'clock p.m. From that humble beginning, a group grew and gathered on a more or less regular basis, sort of monthly. We usually met at a restaurant earlier than before we had the night classes, but we lingered on over our cups. We were generally faculty members, but we included the occasional dean or provost or even the rare president at one point. We morphed into the National Security Council, that may have been Art's idea, on the theory that when we called for a reservation, we'd get a good table. I'm not sure it worked, but we did get looked at as we walked in. But for the past 20 years or so, we've been the boys. And Wednesday night has been boys' night out. The boys were never exclusively male, and were no longer all ex-academics. Smile at ex-academics. Art, you may remember, if you don't, you will be happy to know, made up or did the research that brought about the buyout program that allowed many of us, including him, to retire at a particularly early age. We thank him and we remember him for that. Our last game of Midnight Kick the Can in the University Club parking lot is a fading memory. And did we really go skinny dipping in the Fir Hill Towers pool? Distinctly remember forgetting that. The point of all this is that Art was a social being. He loved his classes, he even enjoyed committees, and he was a central part of our little social group for these 40 years and more. In a real sense, he is and will remain a part of us. From friends, we move to family. Here's Art and Joan's daughter, Christine.
I'm still, I'm stunned, I'm speechless. Memories flood and then they fade. This poem is the most difficult from all the others that I've made. My heart is heavy with sadness, my stomach flips in knots. Day to day is still a struggle, nighttime I just toss. I've told you that I love you and that I'm glad you were my dad. Another father-daughter dinner I wish we would have had. I imagine the words you'd say to me to ease the pain I'm in. Your presence was always a comfort, whether words were spoken or left within. You've left a hole in our family and our healing has just begun. Today we celebrate your life and the man you had become. I'm proud to say that Arthur Pollock Jr. was my dad. We had a close relationship and he made a significant impact on my life. I knew I could count on him to help me with my math homework, give me a pep talk, and reassure me that everything would be okay. He always seemed to know everything and never forgot anything he ever learned. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one day doing schoolwork on government. My dad was fixing dinner, as he often did, and he said, "The majority of the population doesn't know the answers to those questions. There are college students who don't even pay attention to what you're studying." I knew then that my dad was an intellect of a different breed. I thought to myself, my grades are good. I'm going to go to college. I pay some attention to what is going on around me, but I knew that I would probably be more like those college students, not remembering the answers to the questions. I didn't share these thoughts with him in the hopes that maybe I would turn out just like him. My dad had a unique ability to diffuse my intensity, offer perspectives, and support whatever decisions I made. This was especially helpful during my teenage years. Now, I'm aware that some of you have heard about this time period, and I would just like to remind you that there are two sides to every story. One of the things that I appreciated about my dad was that he shared his personal life experiences with me. I remember we were taking a walk after an argument at home, and he confided in me about an experience he had had and how it related to my situation. I don't remember what he told me, but I do remember how special it made me feel that he told me something that he had never told to any other person. My dad was always supportive, but he was especially comforting during the darkest time of my life. He sat with me in the pits, as I called it, and we cried together. My dad was my wingman, my rock, my hero. And I could not thank him enough for helping me with that damn dog, Bailey. Now that I have kids, I try to draw from my experiences to guide me in parenthood. I strive to learn how to talk so the boys will listen, and to learn how to listen so the boys will talk. When it came to me, my dad was a natural at it. It was endearing to see my dad interact with Cade, Kyle, and Nicholas. I suspect they will always remember Grandpa giving them his coins and opening their very own bank accounts. I know they remember about Grandpa's special water. Just to make sure everybody understands what that was, I brought some. One evening, I decided to partake in the beloved fluid, and Cade yelled as if I got caught with my hand in the cookie jar. He was truly shocked that anyone other than Grandpa was allowed to touch this priceless liquid. I'm glad I took the time to tell my dad how much he influenced my decision to become a counselor, and that I felt lucky to have him for a dad. He parted this world knowing that I loved him and that I was appreciative of the things he taught me. I will forever miss him, but he will live on within me.